Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel.
And Aaron.
Aaron, this is a tale of two teams today. We've got one fairly successful team and one absolute disaster. And for once, it's me that's the disaster.
I was about to say, that's been the story all
about
season. That's been the story all season.
I've been laughing at everyone else, and now it's my comeuppance. So today we will be going through how our team has fared. Then we'll be going through basically just the next leg of fixtures. I don't think people need a review when there were only 4 games being played. So I think everyone's probably had a chance to watch at least 2 of them and then catch some decent highlights on the other one. So we won't be going through too much what happened. It'll be more so just proactively trying to engage with the second legs. So Aaron, as is tradition on the podcast, I will go first because my team did worse. That's how we do it. Oh my goodness. Oh, so there was problems everywhere. I had Allison in goal for 2 points. Rooley on my bench with 7. I decided not to make the swap because I thought, well, you know what? I've brought in 3 buy-in attackers. Why would I want the goalkeeper that they're playing against? Error number 1. My defenders, Reece James for 2 points. Joao Cancelo for 7, yes. Laporte with 8, yes. Kimmich with 4 actually isn't that bad. Like, yeah, come see, come sir. And Trent with 3. So I'd taken Trent out and put James in. The issue here was to put Joao Cancelo in. I took out Thiago Silva, which isn't a problem. But I wanted to take out Kimmich. And where the problem lies is if I'd taken out Kimmich for Cancelo, I would have had more money, and then I wouldn't have had to have made certain changes higher up the field, which were problems. So I kept Kante for 2 points. I'm not sure how he even managed to get 2 points because he only played 45 minutes. I took the risk of replacing Mahrez for him, so I actually lost a point off that. And I brought Mahrez in as a transfer for Kai Havertz, who obviously scored. So another disaster. Leroy Sané got 1 point. I gambled on him even though he didn't start because I know Haller punished people in the group stages. I brought in Fabinho for 5 points, which actually is my highest scoring midfielder, which is pretty embarrassing. But I took out Danjuma for him, who scored. Another disaster. So in an ideal world, I would have went Kante to Fabinho and just left the rest. But here we are. Brought in Luis Diaz for 12 points, so he really saved my bacon this week. Lewandowski captained, 2 points double to 4 after all this time. But the major mistake, after listening to Lewis on our spaces that we did and the stats that Bayern Munich had put forward, looking at the team that they were playing against, looking at, despite all of the superlatives we used for Karim Benzema, I just thought it was smarter to go for Muller over Benzema, just to compound my misery. So there were 4, if not 5, quite clear mistakes. I finished on 49 points. I've got red arrows, but it took me 3 days to look at the app. Like, I was just gutted. I was just absolutely gutted. I was like, I'm on holiday. I'm not going to allow this to affect my mood. I'm having a good time. So I didn't look at any of the scores after half time for the Chelsea game because Benzema had already banged in his hat-trick and Havertz had scored and Danjuma had scored. I was like, it's over. It's fine. So I just left it and enjoyed everything. I think it was in the airport back. I was like, oh, okay, we'll have a look. And my rank had only dropped to 762 in the world, which I think at this stage, if you'd asked me before the season starts, would I take that rank? I'd bit your head off for it. Not your hand, your head, your entire head.
In one bite as well. That's impressive.
In one whole bite. I've had a big mouth, as people who watched our football fights will attest to. I'm 34th in England. So it's a personal disappointment in the grand scheme of things. It could have been much worse. I thought I was going to drop thousands and thousands of places. And for the benefit of our podcast, I'd really like to finish with a 3-digit score. Just, I think for us moving forward, it adds that bit of reliability for what we talk about. So my plans have changed. I think I was 300 and something when it happened. And the goal was, it's a free game. I can still do really well. And I want to push for double digits. I think that's gone. I do think that's gone. So now it's just about consolidating, finishing the top 1,000 and making as many risk-free decisions as possible, consolidate, and we'll go again next season. But Aaron, you had a good one. So let's cheer everyone up.
So I did end up playing my wild card in the end. I put it on Twitter and just said, this is what I'm looking at. What are people's thoughts? And thank you to the people that commented, because even though you had said it, I was kind of like replaying it in my head. I was like, no, but still going back and forth. But then the more and more people who were saying exactly what you said, I think it was more so like just the reassurance that everyone else was kind of on the same wavelength. I was like, right, yes, this is the right decision. So ended up doing my wild card. I made 8 transfers in total. And so my team going through, Edison was my goalkeeper, 5 points. I ended up getting a 4 million goalkeeper, which was a risk, but I was really doubling down on Man City. So because I had Laporte and Cancelo as well, so that's 3 defense for Man City. So really happy they got the clean sheet. Robertson, Alexander-Arnold, and then that didn't leave much money, so I had to put Savic. But I was hopefully going to go for the ball recovery points. Thankfully, didn't get yellow carded. But at the same time, the one player who I probably wouldn't have went for anyways, but I remember talking about the Villarreal left back. He got a clean sheet, which I didn't expect, but he was an option anyways, just to try and get someone in around that price. He's went up. Savage has stayed the same price. So that was kind of something I wish I had gone for, but not too much, not beating myself up over it too much. Midfielders, I had Salah. He was quickly put onto the bench. Fabinho, Coleman, Fabinho 5 points, Coleman with 2. Mane, who I was able to bring in because of my wild card, is my captain. And he stayed my captain because I was like, I'm not going to risk losing the points, which was a good decision in the end. And Mahrez for 3 points. And then Lewandowski and Benzema, who I'm wearing this shirt in tribute to him. But what a game, what a crazy game that was. Overall, very, very happy, and have climbed up 15,000 places. It's crazy that amount of spaces still exist. But I'm 36,000, and so I'm really just trying to get back into that 1%. So aiming, there's 1.5 million players, so 150,000 hopefully, but I don't think there's too much room for climbing. So like what you said, just playing for fun. I'm in the top 1,000 in England, so I'll take that, and in the top 200 in Milan, so I'll take that.
Isn't 15,000 1% of our, is that?
Yeah. So I'm on 36 at the minute. Oh, sorry, what did I say?
You said 150,000, which would be...
That's 10%.
So, I mean, that should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
No glory in finishing the top 10% of UCL. But yeah, I think you can do that. I think you can, especially with that you've got your wildcard team set up.
Yeah, I had a look at the kind of in the, not in the overall rankings, I would have been pressing that for quite a while. But I had a look in the Milan league just because I was higher up in that. And it's around about 30 points I need to make up to get there. So.
What, into the top, to be number 1 of the Milan league?
No, to get into the 1%.
1% of the Milan league.
So it's about 30 points.
I think you can do it. I've got every faith in you. Right then, let's talk about some games, Aaron. The matches have now flipped, which means we're going to start with Real Madrid versus Chelsea. After the topsy-turvy ride, Real Madrid proving their class. So many people had Chelsea down as favourites, and I think I said 1-1. I can't remember what score you said for the game, but
It's probably wrong.
yeah, I don't think it was 3-1 Real Madrid either way. But I do think Real Madrid received a lot of disrespect. You know, they've won the Champions League more than anyone else. The team is full of players who have won the Champions League. They've got World Cup winners. I think they are more than capable of winning the entire thing.
I think as well it showed, like, because Chelsea still has a lot of young players who have only been playing in the Premier League for 1 or 2 seasons. And so the fact that they won it last year was a huge upset for a lot of people, like a big shock. The fact that Bayern Munich were knocked out. And so I think what it really showed was the midfield battle, was that the experience of the Real Madrid midfield three just they almost just made it look like the Chelsea midfield weren't there. They were just passing it straight away to the Real Madrid front line. And I think that's why Chelsea lost it in the end. So they'll definitely address it. They came back with a vengeance against Southampton. So yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this game turns out as well. I'm not going to say because of the last game it's going to be Real Madrid again, but it makes it really, really interesting because of the circumstances around it.
I think one of the things that Chelsea struggle with is no Ben Chilwell. I think he might be one of the most, if not the most important fullbacks in the league for like specifically for a team, because they can't play the way that they want. And if he's able to play, he plays as a left winger essentially, but he's able to recover. So they can't play over midfields or through midfield. Like they as soon as there is a midfield battle, I do feel the struggle with just the two of them in there, with whether it's Kante and Kovacic or Kante and Jorginho or Jorginho and Kovacic or Ruben Loftus-Cheek or whoever else it may be. I think they'd be better off just going with 3, trying to match up and allowing Kante to bully a couple of people. And then Kovacic is a dynamic player. He's aggressive. Jorginho, obviously, we know he likes to play those short passes, which helps to sort of dictate a game. I think they may need to change how they play, just because they're going to get overrun again if they play 2 in midfield. And the Marcos Alonso is not the same as Ben Chilwell getting over on that left hand side. Reece James, I think, was his first game back, maybe, or second game back, whatever it was.
His first start since coming back from injury.
It's wasn't ideal circumstances for them. Real Madrid, as we said in the podcast, have, in my opinion, the best number 9 in the world. I do think he's better than Lewandowski and Kane, although they are both amazing, and it's like this much. It's marginal. But just the experience, like Real Madrid are so experienced, and that's what we've got to consider going into the next game. The 3-1 up, it's really difficult to overturn second legs when the second leg's away from home. We've seen it happen a lot at home with that home crowd, but away at the Bernabeu, I've seen other teams struggle there. And Real Madrid just have so much experience, particularly in the midfield. And one thing that sort of Lewis alluded to was, I believe Tuchel's going through a divorce. And like under the surface, I think there's obviously clearly a lot of emotions there, and he's making emotional decisions. And that is something that I obviously don't want to trust for a fantasy game. So for me, with 2 Chelsea assets, I'm gonna look to move them on. And if I can get Benzema in, I don't think I'll be moving them to 2 Real Madrid assets. I think it'll be someone else. And then I'll strongly consider Benzema for Muller if I've got the money. But we'll talk about Bayern Munich later, about why I might not as well. Oh, double risk. But that would be the only risk I go for this week. I can see me trying to play it fairly safe. And I love how you've got triple triple Man City. So yeah, it's a difficult one to approach because I think a lot of people have Benzema and then maybe a couple of Chelsea players over Madrid players. I would look to get rid of those Chelsea players personally. I don't know about you. What do you have many Chelsea players?
I don't have any Chelsea players.
Look at you.
I've got Benzema is the only one from this game who I've got currently. However, it does make me think that if I can get funds, I actually don't even know how much I've got in the bank. So I've got 0.4, but it really just depends on how Salah does, because kind of what you said last time, you would ditch Salah if you could, but you obviously that's a huge risk. It would have paid off if I had have done it because I would have went to De Bruyne, because I was in the draft, I was going back and forth. But in terms of Real Madrid, I was looking at potentially getting one of their cheaper midfielders instead of Gonçalo Ramos for Benfica. So upgrading to Diaz. Obviously, I've already got 5 Liverpool players, so I would have had to have dropped Salah as a result. So it would have been like a Man City player instead of Salah, and then getting a few of the Real Madrid players like Valverde playing on the right wing was crazy. But I think that played into Real Madrid's tactics really well because what they did was Carlo Ancelotti was like, Kante, Jorginho sitting in front of that defense. It's hard to go through the middle. So what the midfield 3 did was spread really, really far wide. Because if you looked at their position, they were basically crowding the wings, knowing that Reece James has just came back from injury and they've got Azpilicueta playing on the wrong side.
And he's been poor recently as well.
So Real Madrid just got it spot on. But if Valverde plays as a right winger again, for only, I don't know if he's went up in price, but he was only 6 million. That's a potential player in there. And he closed down that back 4 so quickly so that Rudiger couldn't play them long balls. And that was the whole point he was there over Asensio or anyone else. So like, I thought it was absolutely perfect. He's still 6 million. And so, but he still only got 2 points. It felt like he was a lot more involved in the game than that. So, but overall, I thought they did a really, really good performance. And Real Madrid are just on the way to win the league, so they can really focus on the Champions League.
Yeah, I still think the defense is an avoid. They just don't really keep clean sheets in the Champions League. The defenders are expensive. I think Alaba's sort of top 10 for points and Militao was sort of second or third. But we also have to look at the group stages for a lot of those points in very specific games against Sheriff, where I think they racked up some for the second game, obviously not the first. But for the knockouts, and they dominated that game, and yet you still never fancied them for a clean sheet. And I think Chelsea could have got a couple. Real Madrid could have got a couple more as well. But I think when you see particularly Benzema's first 2 goals, the 2 headers, and then in the first half, Thiago Silva missed a header, and in the second half, Lukaku shanked a header, and you just think if Benzema was on the end of them, they're goals.
Mm-hmm.
He's so devastating from every possible angle. Yeah, he obviously missed a bit of a sitter because it was on his left foot, and that was really poor. But other than that, he's just a machine. So I think you're always going to count him for goals, especially when he's playing against a defense that aren't really that used to defending. It's more about shape and pressing and allowing Chelsea to dominate and dictate games. That's how they've been playing, opposed to being under the cosh or playing against a world-class striker. Because the Premier League doesn't really have many world-class strikers. Like if Harry Kane, who's been in and out of sorts, he's in fantastic form again now, Harry. But at the start of the season, he'd gone missing, scored 1 in 13 or something against Newcastle when we were still under Steve Bruce. Jota's second top goal scorer in the league. Like, would we say would we say he's a world-class striker? Not when you compare him to Lever and Benzema and Harry Kane, but he's obviously playing fantastically well. And then, like, Man City don't play with a striker; they're top of the league. We look at Havertz having to play as a striker for third in the league. So the best teams, I mean, Arsenal are doing well this season. Lacazette doesn't score many goals. It's been the wingers bombing through. So there aren't that many. And it's a headache for the next round if you don't have Benzema, because he is definitely a striker that you want, because you can score against anyone. It's plain to see. How do you think the second leg is going to go?
I think Chelsea will have to come out the good things early, so Real Madrid will ease early pressure and just look to control the pace of the game, really, really slow it down. I think someone who will be quite interesting for me to look for, even though he's expensive, but Casemiro. Chelsea are going to have to attack a lot. And especially if people like Ziyech are playing, it's going to be a lot of just almost balls through the middle, cutting in. So Pulisic plays on the left side, he'll cut in on his right. Ziyech cuts in on his left, which means a lot of it is going to be central into Casemiro's path. So he's someone I'm looking at.
I think Mount will play on the right, though, after his performance at the weekend. And I think Ziyech was injured for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I think Mount will be on the right.
Looking at One Football, we're not sponsored by them yet. They have the formation as a 3-4-1-2, but I didn't see any of the highlights. Was Mount a right winger?
For which game?
For Southampton.
I don't know. I am
because they had
and
so they had Mount being the
game. 10. It was a 3 o'clock kickoff, wasn't it? So I didn't watch the game.
So I think that's if Mount played as a free role, it would give Casemiro a little bit of trouble. But it's hard to tell because Havertz got brought off 45 minutes. So he's pretty much starting. We knew that anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
But my biggest thing as well was that Azpilicueta wasn't even on the bench. I don't know if anything's happened. COVID. Cool, thank you.
Positive COVID case for Azpi.
Sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, so I don't think he'll, because I don't know what the rules are now, because obviously for normal citizens, apparently COVID isn't a thing anymore. It's just, yeah, you've got it, okay. Although it's away, so traveling, I don't know I know Spain pulled the rules on COVID and have put them back, so God knows what they're doing. But let's be honest, I don't think he's going to play. I think it's probably going to be either Alonso or Sarr at left back, or left wing back, as you like, and then Reece James on the right. I think don't overthink it. I think that's going to be it.
Yeah, because they went back to the back three, which is what I was looking for. They took Christensen off quite early on against Real Madrid, so I think it's going to be interesting to see if he plays. It's just because obviously Christensen's not long back. If I remember correctly, he's not long back from an injury himself. Plus, I think it was Lewis who actually said his mind's already in Barcelona. Yeah, so he had a predicted lineup that actually had Chalobah as the centre back there. It's a bit quicker, so that could potentially help against Vinicius. But I think definitely what formation the defense play depends on whether the captaincy on the first day lies with Benzema or Lewandowski. And I think that'll be a really interesting split, especially with what Benzema has just done. But I think it'll be a draw in the end with Real Madrid progressing. So I'm going to go 1-1.
I agree totally. I think Chelsea are going to get the first goal, get some hope, and then I think Karim Benzema is going to crush that hope with his
in the last minute or something.
I think it'll be more like around half time, maybe just after half time, like 50 minutes, something like that. And I just think it's going to kill the game dead, done and dusted, and then Real Madrid will control it show their class. Next game, Bayern Munich, Villarreal. Much more interesting. Oh my goodness. So the most lethal team in world football playing against a team that have lost 3 in the last 4 and only scored 1 goal, obviously get beat 1-0. It's peak 20s, isn't it? Like, this decade for fantasy sports has been an absolute shocker, and this is just icing on the cake. Nagelsmann, in my opinion, isn't good enough. I'd always had a year there, so that's like really harsh to say. But I think when you've got a team like that, and he consistently just makes mental decisions, like Leroy Sané dragged that team. Him and Lewandowski dragged that team to where they are now in terms of the Champions League. Because the rest of them weren't performing particularly well, he's playing dodgy formations. That he's doing what he did at Leipzig, where there's no set formation. Everything changes. You can't quite guess who's going to play. There's never a settled defense. So how are they meant to defend as a unit when they're constantly changing around? He's tried to shoehorn everyone in. He's then made the decision to leave certain players out. Obviously, it's a headache when you've got Muller, Sané, Gnabry, and Koeman. But Sané is the big game player. So I think it's just a bit bizarre not to play him after all the goodwill he should have earned in previous Champions League games when they were struggling. He was the one that got them out of bother with of course Lewandowski. The two of them were outstanding. Yeah, the Nagelsmann's my problem. I don't like the drop off in standard between Hansi Flick and him is absolutely untrue. Well played, Villarreal. I didn't watch the game. I just didn't. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It's like, you know what, this week's been written off. But Danjuma obviously getting a goal. We sort of said, like, if anyone's going to score, probably is him. But I just thought with the back four, they'd be a little better. Goretzka back in, they'd be a little better. But it's away from home. Bayern Munich away from home are a pussycat. But we saw what happened in the last round, where they just go off at home. They go off. So people will look at the Bayern game, panic, and I think they might get rid of a few. And I think you need to beware, because the players playing at home are just a different breed to any other club in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I am positive for this next game, despite the 1-0 defeat. How are you feeling?
Pretty similar. I think, just on your point on Nagelsmann, I think we've all fallen victim to, you know, when like a youngster scores like a worldie and we're like, oh, like he has so much long of his career left, like what a class player, and then they go missing. I think we've kind of done the same with Nagelsmann being a young manager. We're like, oh, he's doing this kind of stuff with Leipzig as a young manager. He has so much long of his career left. And when in reality, he's not really developed much of his tactical, or even he's just overthinking his tactical points of the game. So I think that's the kind of what we've all fallen victim to. You could prove me wrong. I mean, he still has plenty of time in his career.
Yeah. I'm sure he is going to be a fantastic manager. I am
Probably Germany national coach at some point.
But like, yeah, I don't think he's any better than Frank Lampard.
That's a shot if I've ever heard one. But yeah, my biggest thing for the last game week was just doing what we've always said on the podcast, is going on people who you know are going to play. And so I saw that Sané wasn't in the predicted lineups, so he was out of there for my wild card. Thankfully, kept Koeman, knowing that the games are probably going to be a little bit tighter at this stage, which means Koeman step up. He didn't this last week, but there's still time. But my transfers are for this week are hopefully going to be taking people who are going to play on the second day and switching them to people who I see are starting. So whoever I see starting out of Gnabry or Sane, Mahrez to them, Salah to them probably seems like a good transfer. But I'm probably not going to do any Villarreal people, even though I said that left back, because I'm too scared of Bayern Munich's attack, and rightly so. I mean, the whole transferring in, like subbing in Rulli or not, that could have gone that could have gone either way. It could have been a minus points right there. So I saw a lot of people afterwards going, "Oh no, UCL! Like I didn't sub in the keeper." Can't beat yourself up too much on that one. Lewandowski, Benzema, I still think that's going to be the captaincy between them. I think he scored 2 on the weekend. But I'm probably going to lean to Lewandowski first, unless I feel fancy and go to Gnabry or Coleman first. But I'm probably not going to transfer any defenders from either team on this game.
I think enough people will go for Benzema this
For
week.
Lewandowski to be that good shout.
I think Lewandowski's might be a little, like, not a differential, but not ridiculous expected ownership, where if he does score, it just protects you. It doesn't actually get you any further.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might actually get you a green arrow this week if he does score. I'm going to go Lewandowski.
He only scored 1, which was a
consistent.
penalty. I've just seen.
Say that again?
He only scored 1, which was a penalty.
Like, honestly, at this stage, I'll take it. Like, I don't care how he scores. I just want his points. And especially when he wins penalties.
Which he did.
So, like, it's 6 points for a goal if he wins the pen. It's good that we get to see the lineups. Not so much for the Real Madrid-Chelsea game. I kind of don't care. But for this game, I think it's really useful for the Bayern Munich lineup. And then, I think we can pretty much guess the Liverpool lineup. The difficulty with the Liverpool lineup is a Jota or Diaz. But when Diaz was the best player on the pitch in that first leg, I watched that game by the pool, and he was the best player in my opinion on the day. Klopp doesn't usually change his best team. He might change it for Man City today because Jota is doing so well in the league, but I think he'll reward Diaz for being a better player in the Champions League. That's how Klopp tends to operate, and we said on the spaces that my opinion was going to be that it'd be Salah on the right, Diaz on the left, and Mane through the middle. That's what I thought it was going to be. Was that? And I think with how they played, I don't think he's going to change it again, unless he wants to shoehorn Jota in. But they played so well, I don't think he would, especially in the first half. So I think it's better that we get the Bayern news, to be honest, than anyone else, because they are out of all the fixtures this week, Bayern at home to Villarreal, despite the score last time, is still has to be the best fixture, opposed to the second best is going to be Liverpool versus Benfica, and then obviously Real Madrid, Chelsea, and Man City away to Atletico. Again, anything can happen. So I want to try and keep my Bayern players as best I can. If Sané isn't playing, then yeah, I'd like to know. But is he going to make that mistake again? So in my opinion, that was a huge mistake.
Well, I had a look at the last game. Sané started. He got subbed off at 65 minutes. So
yeah, that's good news. That's good news.
And a good thing as well is that unlike this last round when they played on the second day, if Sané is on the bench, you can still keep him because he could come off the bench and score. If he doesn't, he's your first sub out. So like, it's not as detrimental as it would be the last time. I've just seen there that Hernandez is probably going to play back into a centre back role as Sula is injured. So he got the most points for Bayern Munich last time. He got 5 points. So that's a lot of ball recoveries. So if you're feeling brave and you want a Bayern Munich defender who's not Kimmich, 5.7, I think it is for him.
Yeah.
Which isn't too bad, but I'm leaning more towards a Bayern Munich captain just because the other game is so unpredictable. But I do think that Bayern Munich won't keep a clean sheet because they never do. So Danjuma is still an option. But I think Bayern Munich will win 3-1 and progress 3-2 on aggregate.
Yeah, I think Danjuma might be coming back in for me. Because I think if I can bring Danjuma in and keep Kimmich, play them against each other and see who comes out on top. I know it's going to be one substitute regardless, but unless they both score or if Kimmich gets an assist, and he got, like I said, he got 4 points. So he got a couple of ball recoveries. So if you can do that, get an assist and Danjuma scores, that'd still be fine. But I mean, there's just so many what ifs, and it is best to have players on that first day, which is a shame for the Chelsea versus Real Madrid game. But I think that's why I want to keep Reece James for that Chelsea, because anything can happen. But it's a bit of a shame. What's your scoreline for this one?
3-1.
Solid 5-1 Bayern. I don't care. I know that's so disrespectful to Villarreal when they've just beaten them 1-0, but it's Bayern at home. Salzburg looked like prime Barcelona at home to Bayern Munich with a 1-1 draw, and then we saw what happened in the second game. So yeah, I'm going to go 5-1 Bayern. I don't care. On to the second day's worth of fixture. So first game, we've got Liverpool at home to Benfica. As we've already sort of talked about this, so I don't think we actually need to go into that much detail. Make sure you've got Liverpool players. I think Robertson is more than matching Trent. He's out playing him at the minute. So if you don't have either Trent or Robertson in yet, I'd probably go for Robertson purely on the basis that he's cheaper. I think they'll end up doing the same overall over time. I still don't regret having Alisson. I think he's still going to do okay in this fixture. And ultimately, they wouldn't have conceded if it wasn't for Konate. And we've talked about him over, I think it was last year. Might even have been the year before. It was definitely last year as well. That he's error prone. So he got the goal, very well done. But he makes mistakes in defence. And I think we saw in the last round, he played the first leg and Matt had played the second, I think. So I can see that happen again. I think Van Dijk's the man, and those two will rotate, Konate and Matip. And I think the idea is that they play for their spot for whether it be the semis or if they get through the finals. It's risky, but I think when you look at the opponents that they play in, Klopp feels clearly confident that it's a tactic that he can use well. I think Matip is a much better player than Konate, but obviously with his goal and with not a great performance in the second leg when Matip played, and I think he was at fault for giving the ball away to Martinez for Inter. So maybe in the Champions League stage, Konate is just ahead, but that mistake's not going to help. And it was a really bad one, just total lack of concentration. And it wasn't for that. Trent's got his clean sheet, plus his ball recoveries. Alisson's got a clean sheet, and we're all clapping our hands, laughing. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. The front five. I don't think we need to talk about Firmino. I think it's just the four of Mane, Salah, Jota, and Diaz. It is a risk having Diaz or Jota. We all need to accept it for the money that they are. But I think if either one of them plays, you're just laughing. You're laughing all the way to the bank. The good thing is that they aren't that expensive. So if we know that they aren't playing, I wouldn't actually play them, because Klopp's a bit funny with subs. So if they are benched, I wouldn't play them. I just leave them on your bench and no, it's an 8 million striker. It's fine. It is what it is. Providing your other two are premiums. If you're someone like you, where you've got Ramos as one of them, Lewandowski, and then Diaz or Jota, I think that's a bigger cause for concern. But if you've got Benzema, it's fine. Can't play everyone anyway. And I would. It's hard because Salah's on pens, and Liverpool do win a lot of pens. And he'll get usually, he'll get his 7 points off that. Maybe he's 8. Sometimes he's 9. He likes a 9-pointer, doesn't he, Salah? Where they keep a clean sheet, he scores a goal, and then he gets 3 ball recoveries. He tends to get that a few times. But he's playing really badly, and people will talk about XG all day long. Oh, his XG now is the same as his XG previously. But it's like, well, XG doesn't necessarily mean the chances were created by himself. Like a player could do wondrous things, pass him the ball, and he's missed a sitter, and his XG is going to be higher than it was if he skinned everyone and shot from 20 yards out. So XG doesn't relate at all to how well the player is playing, which is a big argument I've seen to say that he's not playing that badly, despite the fact that he's absolutely playing that badly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a form issue. It's not. He's not a bad player. He's still a world-class player. He's just hit a bad run of form, and ultimately, you'll score a hat-trick sometime soon, and everyone will say, you said you should have kept him, you should have done this, you should have done that. But how many points have you lost along the way keeping him just for the glory of shoving in everyone else's face when he does eventually go off? Just bring him back in after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you think he's going to score loads at Benfica, keep him. But he's not playing well. He's certainly playing, in my opinion, the worst of that front four. And if it wasn't for his goals earlier on in the season and his reputation that he's built up and the good faith that he's built up, I don't think he'd be starting. I think Jota would be on the right, Mane through the middle, and Diaz on the left. I think that would be their best front three at the minute based on form.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen. It's Salah.
The one player I wanted to highlight was Naby Keita, selected by 0% and got 8 points in the last game because he got an assist. He set up the goal. He got the assist before the assist for the first goal, and he got 9 ball recoveries. And so if he doesn't play against Man City, I can see him playing again. He's 6.1 million. He went up a little bit in price, I think. But if you have Fabinho, or maybe you're looking to get funds for someone like it yourself, Muller to Benzema, I think Naby Keita might be a good shout. That's just someone I wanted to kind of highlight. Good ball recovery. I think he got more ball recoveries than Fabinho, but it is close.
Fabinho got 3 ball recovery points.
Oh, he got 10 ball recoveries. Keita got 9, but the same amount of points. So
yeah.
But no, I just wanted to highlight him. I agree with what you've said. In terms of Benfica, obviously the Nunes got a goal. I don't know if they'll do that again, so I don't think I would jump on to him. I was so close to having him instead of Benzema, I would have had Mahrez. I would have De Bruyne instead of Mahrez. So when at the end of the first day, I was like, I could have had De Bruyne and Nunes, but then I would have missed out on Benzema as a result. So
worked out well for you.
Yeah, it worked out in the end. Ramos actually got a ball recovery point. So he got 3 points, and I subbed him out for a loss of points. So my plan in having him is just to, unless something happens, most of my money is going to go into midfield moving forwards. So it's literally just to kind of sit on my bench for the rest of the stages, because all the other strikers are going to be mad expensive moving forwards.
Yeah.
But if a transfer presents itself, I will get rid of him. That's just kind of where I'm at right now.
What's the score going to be?
I think Liverpool will win 2-0.
Same. Why? Oh, we're very samey today, Aaron. We're very samey.
Not good.
It's annoying.
Controversy. We need it.
I know. We need the football fights. Last game, we have Man City versus Athletic Madrid at Madrid. 1-0 in the first leg. So I think that's what you guessed, wasn't it? You said 1-0. Well done, you.
So I'm going to say yes.
It looked like as it was described, a 5-5-0 in the end by Atletico, which we understood. And I think we said if they were struggling, the one player that had scored was probably De Bruyne because of his long range shooting. If it wasn't Mahrez from a set piece, Phil Foden changing the game, jumping in, just gliding into pockets. Wasn't jumping into pockets.
He'll start against Liverpool today, is what my guess is.
100%.
The lineup might even be out right now. I don't know, a couple of minutes at the time of recording. Yeah. But I think he'll start against Liverpool, and it'll just be kind of how that game goes, depending on if he starts again. I think they do need to play him because he just unlocked the Atletico Madrid. I was about to say defense, basically team. He unlocked the team because they had the whole team defending. And he's just so good with the ball at his feet. And then when it comes to Atletico Madrid, they can't just sit back and do the same thing. So they're going to have to come up with something, and it'll just be interesting to see what they can come up with. I don't know if DS is back yet, but he probably won't be risked in such a big game, just coming back from injury. But I believe Kyle Walker is back, which is going to be huge.
Kyle Walker is back. So I think that's going to be...
Feels like the longest suspension ever.
Say that again?
It feels like the longest suspension.
Yeah.
Over a red card.
So stupid. I think it was harsh to give him a 3-game ban for it, though. Like, I don't think I knew that. Like, that is... I think that's UEFA just trying to stick it to Man City. I don't think... Like, you know, if Casemiro did that to someone, he's not getting an extra game's ban. He's just getting his one for the red card, or however many it would be. With this game, I think with it being 1-0, I think Man City are just going to knock the ball around and try and draw Atletico Madrid out. They're the most patient team in the world, Man City. They'll pass the ball sideways. They'll do that thing where they play 34 passes in 20 seconds between Rodri and the two centre-backs. It's going to happen until they come out, and then I think that's when they're going to pounce. Players like Foden are going to be important. I think players like Bernardo Silva are going to be really important. I think De Bruyne might be less important in a game like this because I think Atletico Madrid have to come out now. They can't play the way that they were. I think Diego Simeone was very much of the mindset, look, 1-0's fine, and we'll take them back to ours with the crowd and the atmosphere, and we'll transfer on there. So I think Man City are going to have an even better performance in this game. Obviously, it's danger zone if Atletico Madrid score, because they might just drop back into that back 10 and play for pens. You never know. Maybe they might go for the throat, but I know it's such a cliche, but the first goal in this game is so important. What do you think? What do you think of Atletico? Do you think they've got a chance?
They've definitely got a chance because they've been in these type of situations before. Knocking out Liverpool, Anfield a couple of years ago when COVID first started, just to name an example off the top of my head. But like, it's just how they're not the same team as they were back then. They've tried to be more attacking, and then when it's come to these games, he's just reverted back to that defensive style he knows how to play. I think a credit to Simeone is the amount of buy-in he gets from his players. Like, he says something and his players are like, yep, let's do it. Like that. I remember, well, just off the pundits, you wouldn't have had the pundits last week, which lucky you. No. But they were all just basically saying like, there's not a more anti-football, cheating, doesn't even want to play football. He's just like than Atletico Madrid.
Gamesmanship, loves gamesmanship.
So like, they've been in these type of situations before. This is all of his plan. Like, he knew as long as we can keep it tight for the first game. Like, Simeone has something up his sleeve. I just don't know what. And as long as Pep doesn't overthink it, which he normally does in the Champions League, then I think Man City will go through. But all these factors, you can't ignore them. And that's what makes it a really interesting second leg.
What's the score going to be?
2-1 Man City. But I think them 2 goals will come near the end and Atletico will score and it'll be like edgy of seat stuff. And then Man City will score, all relief. Atletico Madrid stadium will just deflate and then they'll grab one more just for good measure. That's what I think.
And then Simeone's going to just like run and jump on Pep and just start smashing his face in. And then Luis Suarez is going to grab the corner flag and start like trying to javelin people. And I hope that happens. That'd be nice. It'd be a nice thing to see.
And if it does happen, you heard it here first.
Nah, you're a sick man, Aaron. I just think it's going to be a routine 2-0 win for Man City and no one's going to get assaulted.
No red cards. I think that's a better prediction. Do you think there's going to be a red card in this game?
I don't gamble, but I think if I did, I think you've got to put a red card in this game.
Well,
for Kyle Walker.
If you are on Spotify, we put polls on the episodes. Seem like that's one of the new features that Spotify allows us to do. Answer the poll. Do you think there'll be a red card in the Man City Atletico Madrid game? We'll put it on Twitter as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see what people think.
Well, it's going to be 100% yes. It's going to be better to say who is going to get red carded.
Yeah, who's going to get the red card, Man City or Atletico?
Yeah. Atletico most likely. I think it's going to be really good. I think I'm probably going to watch that game on the Wednesday. We are doing another Spaces on Tuesday, myself and Lewis. That is through the Fantasy Football Scout community Twitter page. So do join us for that. We usually start these things at 5:30. I think Lewis usually creates them a little bit early, so it's like sort of available from 5:15.
And he'll correct us on all of our non-Chelsea knowledge as well. So anything that we've said that is wrong, he'll at least correct it.
Well, to be fair, he told me that Chelsea want to make it difficult for Real Madrid in that he didn't think Benzema was going to go off. So got a bone to pick with him. It's my decision. I'm an idiot. No one else. He went with Benzema, so he did really, really well. He sent me a message, just going, "I really feel for you, mate." I was just like, "Thank you. I do need."
That was sabotage. That's compassion. All it
was. But I think that's just done now, Aaron. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. We are at UCL Fantasy Pod. Aaron, you're a bit more lively on Twitter these days. What's your Twitter handle?
I think it's Aaron_Graydon. It might be Aaron.Graydon. You'll see this face anyways. And if you listen on Spotify, then you'll see our face. So just follow them all.
Yeah, we are on YouTube. If you're looking at our ugly mugs right now, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Anchor, who we actually do this through. We will be back after this for a little review and also to go through our own Champions League. Just with me being away, we haven't had a chance to actually do the scores and things like that for a proper review show. But we will give one of those once this leg has been played. So that's going to be interesting. I think our very own Nathan Bullock is only 1 point behind, so that's going to be really interesting. But best of luck for Tuesday and for Wednesday. Hopefully, anyone around me gets a red arrow. The rest of you can all enjoy green arrows, and we'll see you later. Cheers. Bye now.